Hello, and welcome to this Analyst Angle on the importance of network to the retail industry. I'm Bob LaLiberte, Principal Analyst with theCUBE Research, and today I'm joined by John Brams, SVP of Americas Sales for Extreme Networks. And today we're going to discuss the role Extreme Networks plays in enabling retail customers. Welcome, John.
Bob, great to see you as always.
Yeah, absolutely. And just saw you not too long ago, right? About a week ago, we were both in New York City for the National Retail Federation show at the Javits Center. Show was really well attended, over 40,000 attendees, 3 floors of expo halls at the event, probably with the most crowded I've seen the Javits Hall in a long time. It was interesting during some of the keynotes, they were highlighting that still anywhere between 75 and 80% of retail revenues are still coming from in-store purchases. So when I see that, I realize it's really imperative that these retailers provide a differentiated experience in their locations. And in order to do that, these retailers are going to need innovative network solutions. And in fact, research that we conducted earlier this year highlighted 89% of retail organizations believe that the network is more or much more important in their organization's ability to meet their business goals. So really highlights the importance of the network in retail. And with that said, let's get started. John, I wanted to ask, how long, it was my first NRF, but how long has Extreme been actively supporting the retail industry? How long have you been going?
Sure. Actually, it's been over 2 decades, right? 20 plus years of innovation. We were absolutely an early pioneer in the technology on the retail side. And it was really based on several different factors. Wi-Fi, from a technology perspective, was really introduced early. The need, the fundamentals around the technology were really the core element of it. So we identified that early as an opportunity. It's interesting what you say about NRF. For we've been involved with it for over, since its beginning. The one trend I've noticed with NRF, Bob, and I don't know if you've noticed this as well, or heard this from other people since it was your first one, is the international influence on NRF. I felt like, particularly from EMEA and LATAM, we saw a tremendous amount of people joining NRF. In fact, I'd argue that it might have been stronger than the actual U.S. presence. And I think as it relates to technology, that's an interesting development too, because it used to be that those markets were a little bit behind from a technology perspective. And based on some of the conversations and some of the partnerships we have now, we're actually seeing some of those markets start to take a leap forward, and in some cases leading the technology related to the space. But yeah, 20 years plus of innovation in this space, and I'm very excited about the future and some of the emerging things we're doing around in the entire vertical.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great. And that theme was absolutely echoed. And it was really evident, especially on the first day, the international presence was definitely there through the keynotes, through walking around the show floors, and not just on the first day, but all the days that we were there. So, and I had also heard that there was a majority of potentially international attendees as well. So yeah, great to see that. Great to see the innovation not constrained, and that this is truly a global show, not just a US show. So obviously a lot of interest in what's going on, and obviously networking a big part of that. So I talked a little bit about the differentiated experience. And so organizations are trying to put, digital signage, in-store Wi-Fi, things like that, real-time information. How does the Extreme Networks enable all of these bandwidth intensive applications?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. It's an evolving arena for us. And if you take a look at the technology, there's kind of three different cornerstones that we look at specific to retail. The first one being 6E and Wi-Fi 7 and really the 6 gigahertz space. What's great about that technology, and we were an early leader into that space, particularly around our sports and entertainment practice, which tends to be the early proving grounds around technology. And now we see it evolve in other verticals like retail, but in particular, the 6 gigahertz space has been tremendous, opening up different frequency ranges that simply weren't available. And you see all this different type of stuff coming into these environments, from ESL to temperature senses and sensor gauges, all this different technology they're introducing. Fundamentally, the network is a big part of it. The other part of the technology that's been significant for us, particularly in retail, is around the AI ops. if you think about it, we have environments that have close to 100,000 access points, and managing that, even though the IT staff is actually getting significantly smaller, they're not investing in this space, right? If anything, they're trying to reduce OpEx. So the AI ops and adding that efficiency from a management, identifying issues, troubleshooting issues, and making that a lot more efficient has been a significant part of it. And then the final place for us is really around the application side, not only from the management side, but how we provide QoS and make sure whatever applications are critical to that environment, if they're rolling out a new sort of customer experience, if you will, or a different part of their application, we want to make sure we're prioritizing those. So we really take a look at it from three different areas: core technology, how do you manage that, and how do you prioritize it going forward in the retail space?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because as these technologies evolve, as more technology is deployed in the stores, it creates a lot more complexity that a lot of times those operations teams need to deal with. So bringing things in like AI ops and so forth that really enable organizations to operate more efficiently is going to be welcome, and to be able to handle more complex environments with the same number of existing staff they had, and even potentially even freeing them up to work on more of these strategic initiatives like putting in the digital signage, digital mirrors, things like that, enabling those differentiated experiences is really what's going to help drive those retail businesses to get to higher levels of profitability and loyalty from their customers. So
Yeah, exactly. We see that continue to develop, and if anything, they're trying to do more with less, right? So
correct.
anything we can do to make them operationally efficient is a significant impact on their business.
Absolutely. And another thing that we hear about in the security space, because of all the, the point of sale, everything's going wireless, et cetera, is security always comes up as well. So they need the network connectivity, but they also need to know it's secure. So I'm wondering if you could touch upon any of the security functions that Extreme Networks provides to help these retailers protect their sensitive data and even address some of these emerging cybersecurity threats.
Yeah, for sure. As you know, a lot of these brands are massive public facing brands, right? That have been around for, in some cases, over 100 years. So they tend to be places that attackers go after. So protecting their brand, protecting their customers, protecting the data is critical for them. And there's a few pieces of different technology that we see commonly utilized across retail, although it's other verticals as well. The first part on the network side is really the microsegmentation. We've been a leader in the fabric technology, so the ability to have thousands of different types of devices attached to a network and really be independent of each other and through microsegmentation, but again, be able to manage that in a meaningful, scalable way has been a piece of technology that's been utilized throughout the history of what we've done with retail. And if anything, it's continued as it evolves, as more devices, more unique devices connect to the network, it's becoming even more popular. Another piece of technology that I think is becoming, it's been around for a little bit, I think is becoming more popular is ZTNA, right? Zero trust access. So now that we're expanding this network, potentially expanding it outside the traditional four walls, having people join remotely, and making sure that that access is secure, is also another piece of technology. Although not necessarily new, I think the way we integrate it as part of our core solution, it goes back to that operational efficiency side of thing, make it so it's clean and seamless and part of our core solution.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you hear a lot about ZTNA, right? The concept of never trust, continuously verify, being able to ensure that only the right people are supposed to be on the network or on the network. And I also think the microsegmentation is such a big piece of it as well, because in the event that someone can get past your security features, you need to limit the blast radius, right? And limit the damage that they can do once they're in, if they get in. So great stuff there. Obviously something that's going to be really important to the retailers. One of the other things, and it somewhat ties into this a little bit, right, to the security aspect of it, is that the retailers are also deploying a lot more IoT devices, whether it be sensors, cameras, scene analytics, things like that, to help them understand the shopping experience and deliver better ones. How is your networking infrastructure supporting a lot of these emerging technologies and helping organizations take advantage of them?
Yeah, I mean, the good news for us is we have a significant sort of legacy of building that technology. And I think that's the key with us. It's built and integrated directly into it, specifically around our AI and how we implement that across our solution. The other thing related to that is it's starting to give us insights. One thing we learned early on in our stadium business, and this is very true in the retail side of things, is that the data itself has significant value to it. And I think that the key part about AI and unlocking sort of the analytics side of that is being able to aggregate all this data. If you think about a retail environment, there's a tremendous amount of data across a legacy infrastructure. And I mean that both from IoT, the networking side of things. So any solution you implement has to be able to carry forward that. So you have stuff that could be 10 or 15 years old from a technology perspective. And the reality is, in a retail environment, they're not going to be able to upgrade that. So the key part of our solution is being able to manage those environments, support that, aggregate it from an AI perspective, and then as we do in the stadium environment, is really start to deliver that next gen analytics. What type of insights can you get from aggregating all this data? What type of things are you seeing in this environment that are unique? We call it the fan experience, but it's very, very similar to the customer experience. Can I make a store more efficient from an IT operations perspective? How do they flow in the environment? Is there inefficiencies with the way that they move around, for example? So we're taking some of those older pieces of technology, make sure we're supporting them, and then putting them in a position to make intelligent decisions going forward. The other thing we see in retail, Bob, is any piece of technology they're going to invest in. As you know, that retail, it's razor thin, right, in terms of profitability and a success. So they have to really justify the ROI on any investment that they make in a solution. So that goes back to giving people the meaningful data to say that, hey, we just made this decision. We've just implemented this piece of technology. Let's make sure that we can show the value that we're delivering and the efficiencies gained, et cetera.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, and it's really interesting to hear that you're able to carry over those learning and insights from a stadium, right? Not many stores have 60,000, 70,000, 80,000 customers coming in any one period of time. But that ability, it brings up a lot of good points, because that ability to leverage the data you're collecting from the people who are attending enables you to have greater insights and make decisions that will impact the experience and impact the buying decision and so forth. And for retailers, as many of them had said last week during the keynotes, even a small change on a big number can have a significant impact. So if you're able to leverage that data that you're collecting from the wireless network about where your customers going, the flow patterns and so forth, and how long they dwell at certain areas and so forth, can really enable them to optimize that experience and also try and optimize their sales and profits.
Yeah, 100%. And that's, like you said, even small, relatively, incremental improvements have a significant impact to the bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. And, talking about, scale in large organizations and so forth, we know that, retail organization technologies are evolving quickly. Customer expectations are changing. How does your AI-driven networking approach support these highly distributed and scalable and future-proof networking solutions?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, AI is it's a key tenet of our solution, and we designed it from the bottom up, and really through our our sports legacy, we figured out the right way to use this as a tool, and then transport over to different verticals. But the AI and some of the visibility and how we scale it over these environments has given us some interesting insights. A good example of that is we have a large retailer that is now just in the process of upgrading their Wi-Fi network, and it's really at the core of it is supporting all the things that we talked about: the expansion of IoT devices, temp sensors, ESL, type technology throughout as well. But what they found is, and they're using an application, think of it as the app that we use when you go in the store, and they're moving towards doing electronic couponing. And this is a food retailer. What's interesting about that is it's a different experience for people now. And one thing they learned early on in that process is that hey, there's an expectation that people know how to get onto Wi-Fi networks. And what they found is that that isn't a baseline assumption, meaning that they actually may not know how to get onto Wi-Fi networks. So one of the things we're working on in terms of a partnership around the technology side of it is, and it's something we've supported in the stadium space for a long time, is the offloading and the onboarding, if you will, from a carrier perspective. So it becomes a seamless authentication experience, whether you're, in the case of a US customer, T-Mobile, AT&T, or Verizon, you seamlessly authenticate. So what that does is allow users to get on the network, and it allows them to seamlessly get on the network from an authentication perspective. So you've solved that issue from a user side of it. And then, like I said, the key part of it now is once you have people on the network, now you get visibility into what they're doing, what type of applications you're using above and beyond the app, and you've solved the primary issue, which is, hey, users might struggle to actually get on the network. So we designed that from the ground up, and all the authentication and for example, the carrier authentication side of things, in terms of Hotspot 2.0, and there's several other pieces of technology. We have years in of developing that. So in terms of building these architectures, building the solutions, it's a really seamless way for our retail customers to really improve their customer experience as they roll out the technology.
Excellent, excellent. That sounds great. I'm wondering, do you have any other examples of successful retail deployments that you want to share about where you significantly improve their operations or customer experience?
Yeah, I'll build on the one I was just talking about. That's actually a customer of ours, Kroger, who is in the process of rolling out close to 100,000 access points over 2,500 stores. The project in itself has been incredible to watch them deploy at the pace they've done. At some points, upgrading up to 20 stores a week, up to 80 stores a month, and making that transition. And they were highly motivated to do that because there's technologies they had to embrace. They knew the operational efficiency they were going to be getting from a day-to-day management perspective. And so those pieces, and then I already mentioned this previously, in their case, moving to the 6 GHz space was a huge, huge win for them. So they fast-tracked this project. They went through a extensive process to select the technology. And for a lot of the reasons today that we talked about, they ultimately selected Extreme. The AI ops was a big part of them. How do they manage this day to day? The 6 GHz technology in 6E, and obviously in 7 now, was a big part of it. And then, the ability to integrate some of those technologies that I talked about. They're absolutely one of the customers that's thinking about, how do we seamlessly authenticate users onto this network? What's the best way to do this? And then the analytics portion was important to them. Now they're at the network. How do we make better business decisions going forward? So Kroger is a great example of utilizing all those pieces of technology.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like a great example. Well, I really want to thank you for coming on today. That's all the time we have. So John, again, thank you for joining me.
Bob, it's always great to see you. I appreciate the time, and looking forward to the next conversation.
Absolutely, as am I. And I want to thank all of you for watching this Analyst Angle on the role of the network in the retail industry. For more details on Extreme Networks for the retail industry, please visit the Extreme Networks website.